Hi, I'm Bybreen and welcome back to another episode of Soul Stirring Astrology, where I give you my textured take on the world of astrology. On December the 20th, which is next week, a few days' time, Saturn moves into one of its primary homes, which is Capricorn, and it's going to be there for 3 years until the 16th of December 2020. So it's come home, finally come home. It's left Sagittarius, the sign that it wasn't quite comfortable in, because, you know, Sagittarius is about philosophy and faith and dynamism, whereas Saturn is still about faith, but it's faith without the crutches. It's about achievement, authority, taking up your place in the world, wanting to be respected and admired. But it's also the journey that's moving you away from your sense of inadequacy, self-doubt, failure. These are the fears that drive Saturn. And wherever Saturn is showing up in your chart, it's the journey to challenge yourself to overcome all of these things. Because yes, Saturn wants this externalization of what has been achieved because it rules the 10th house. And the 10th house primarily is around career, public standing, public opinion, how you want to be perceived and understood and welcomed in the world. And so Saturn is the hard taskmaster. He is on this journey. It's about the mountain goat struggling step by step, climbing up to the top of the mountain. And once you reach the top of the mountain, you want to be respected. But it's not a smooth journey, because Saturn is about helping us to structure our identity, to structure our worlds. And it's not an easy ride, and it's not meant to be an easy ride, because Saturn here is about teaching us solitude. Where is it that we actually need to be self-sufficient? Because it's this sense of self-sufficiency that once understood, connected with, and then demonstrated to self first and then to others is what is going to actually lead you ultimately to this sense of satisfaction and pride. But you need to be careful that you're not using Saturn in a manipulative way, because Saturn wants to be admired, but also Saturn can seek to control others, and it's about basking in your own sense of achievement. But by doing so, you're trying to control the environment around you. And here is where you can start to undermine the very achievements that you're seeking to bring about in the world. So Saturn is a 29-year cycle. So it's here, the last time it was here would have been 29 years ago, which would have been the late 80s, 89, 90. And so just think back, where were you 29 years ago? What was happening for you? What was going on in your world? So we know, you know, back in, I think it was 1989, that the Berlin Wall came down. And so Saturn is very much represented and reflected by the Berlin Wall. Yeah? What internal walls do you need to lower? What is it that you need to uncover? And Saturn also reflects parenting, or the parent or parents, because in the 10th house, that's the parent that is seen to the world, and Saturn is very much a male figure, so there's an association with your dad or your father figure. But actually it might be your mum. It's the parent that actually helped you in terms of your socialization. You know, the parent that was seen to be doing this, that was offering this to you. And so with Saturn, there's a sense of austerity around it. You know, Saturn can be quite cold, quite boundaried, quite barriered. So did you experience your parenting, you know, the obvious parent? Did you experience them as somebody who was quite withdrawn or withholding of emotions? Because Saturn in the 10th house wants to be seen. But in order to be seen, that's great, but to be seen, but you also, and the public requires you to connect. So if your sense of parenting has been one of emotional coldness, Saturn is going to shine a light on this area for you to consider, to reevaluate what was parenting like, how were you parented. Saturn is now coming back into your realm for you as the adult to become the adult parent of the adult. Are you equipped to deal with it? So that gives us a sense of the 10th house. And if you have both parents that were both active in your life, then you've got Saturn's associated with the father. What was your relationship with your dad? You know, it's about your son, your core identity, and it coming into contact with Saturn, which is the father figure. What was that like? Did your father teach you how to be a great man? Did your father teach you in terms of what it means to, as a woman, to be responding to men? And then conversely, if parents were both active, then you've got the mother figure. And as I said, the mother could also be on the 10th, cusp of the 10th house, or the 4th house. And the 4th house is associated with the moon and nourishing and nurturing. What was that experience like for you? How are you now in your own home experience as an adult? You know, you've got Saturn, for example, in the 4th house. What does that look like and feel like? So Saturn going into Capricorn, into, you know, its most powerful position, is going to be challenging you on so many levels for you to demonstrate this sense of self-sufficiency. How are you showing up in the world? And wherever Saturn is in the chart is going to reflect some levels of inadequacy or insecurities. So Saturn in the 1st house, there could be this diffusion of identity, and there's an uncertainty about what your core identity is. And given that Saturn is in Capricorn, it's very much about you as an authority. So in the next 3 years, how are you cultivating this solid identity that you are proud of, much less anybody else? Because what can happen is there's this kind of projection and externalization. And if you're not happy with who you are, then it doesn't really matter what other people think, because you can't get your validation from other people primarily. You shouldn't be doing that. You need to get it from yourself. And you might be somebody who recognizes that you're always striving to prove to other people that you're a great person. Now, if you find you're that way inclined, or you're very competitive, this actually could be reflecting the proportion of how much your identity was suppressed in your earlier life. So there may be this sense that you're trying to catch up and prove to the world that you are valuable, you can make a valid contribution. But Saturn shouldn't be about the competition with others or needing, you know, it's about you understanding what is your motivation for achieving these things. Because if the focus is on the material realm, then there could be a deficiency with regards to emotions. So it's about exploring this, and this is what Saturn, wherever it is in the chart, is beckoning you to do. Saturn and Capricorn in the 2nd house, there may be uncertainty or insecurity around how you bring value, how you demonstrate your own value. Is there a lack of self-esteem? You're uncertain, you're always devaluing your contributions. Saturn here is here to teach you lessons that you need to look at the contributions you can make and then placing a value on it. And then by placing a value on it and taking that into the world, it's going to enable you to straighten up and face the world with confidence, because the 2nd house is about your inner resources as well as your external ones. But Saturn here is going to be teaching you how to cultivate and build up these resources. With Saturn in the 3rd house, there could be a level of intellectual snobbery, and that's a defensiveness, you know, trying to browbeat. And here's where Saturn could be controlling people in your environment. You know, is there uncertainty around what it is that you actually think? And so you intellectualize things. Saturn here is going to be shining a light on how you go about improving or diversifying your style of communication. What does that actually look like and feel like for you? Saturn in the 4th house is pointing very much to your home environment. So Saturn in Capricorn, are you very conservative in how you are in your home environment? If you're married, what does your marriage look like and feel like? Are people, you know, your wife or your husband or your children, how do they relate to you? How do they respond to you? Is there a sense of they're deferential or they're walking on eggshells because they don't want to be seen to be challenging your authority. Saturn will show you, you know, to try and teach you how to stand in somebody else's shoes so that you're connecting with your family. And also the fourth house is about this nourishment and this nurturing, and it's the sign, it's the house that the moon rules. So, you know, emotionally, what's the tone and the feel of your home environment? Saturn in the fifth house could be showing you where you're uncomfortable about being playful and joyful, or where you place a limitation on your creativity. There could be a lack of joyfulness, you know, because you're an adult and you've kind of left your childhood, you know, in your childhood. Now Saturn is also here to structure some of that so you can bring out the wonderful creativity that's lying within you. And once you're on top of Saturn, you're in control, Saturn's about mastery, then you're able to oscillate and flow between the playfulness, the playful side of you, as well as the sincere and serious adult side of you. You can do both. Saturn in the sixth house, you might find that you're bringing the kind of lens to focus on how do you dissipate your energy at work. Is that because you're frustrated with your role, with your job, and that you're just kind of spreading yourself thin, you're dissatisfied? Saturn will show you how could you bring structure into your world. You know, how can you demonstrate your level of gravitas in the world of work so that you can then begin to attract the attention and the respect from your colleagues. Saturn in the seventh house might be pointing or shining the light on your fear of intimacy in your intimate relationships. There's this sense of aloofness that may come across in your relationships, and yet your partner is wanting to feel your love, you know, having faith in who you are. And Saturn here, once you've mastered it, brings such solidity and seriousness to your relationships, but you've got to get through this fear of intimacy. You've got to overcome that so you can have something that's really meaningful to you. Saturn in the eighth house, there's this fear of instincts and what you can't see, like the occult. You know, it's Pluto's realm, and Saturn is very much the control freak. And so what can't be seen in the conscious world, you could be debilitated by it. Saturn here is shining the light, wanting you to probe into the meaning of death. Why does death frighten you? It's going to come to all of us. But with Saturn in the eighth house, there is this defensiveness over what you can't control. And death, none of us can control that. Saturn in the ninth house could show you where you have limiting beliefs or philosophies or principles, and they are limiting you to the diversity of what the world has to offer. And so where is it that you're shrinking back from the global community? Where are you doing that? And more importantly, why are you doing that? You know, when we're looking at philosophy, we're looking at the issues of rationale, understanding, unpicking, the motivations as to why you do what you do. It's ruled by Jupiter. Saturn in the 10th, here you are standing proudly. You've been the mountain goat, you've got to the top of the mountain and you're admiring the view, and you want to be admired and you want to be respected, but you need to be careful that you're not playing power games, getting into power conflicts with people in the world, because Saturn wants to be admired, but the public also wants to be engaging or being engaged by you. And so it's about ensuring that you're not getting into power play. And particularly because Saturn going into Capricorn will join Pluto, and Pluto is about power, and Pluto is already there. And then in 2020, it will be joined by Jupiter. And so you've got these three very powerful planets that will be in the Earth sign. So there's big revolutionary changes that are going to take place in 2020. So Saturn here is guiding you towards how do you manage power and leadership. Saturn in the 11th house is maybe showing you where you're uncertain about your master plan. You're sort of all over the place. You're not quite sure. There's a hesitancy. And why is that? Why are you hesitant, given that Saturn is moving into Capricorn, and given that Saturn over the previous 3 years has been about, you know, your personal beliefs? What is it that you truly want to manifest in the world? So Saturn in the 11th house will show you, are you uncertain about that? But also it could show you your limitations or your lack of comfort around approaching people who might be able to help you manifest those plans and those dreams and those goals. You know, how are you limiting your relationships? Do you separate people in your world, or do you live an integrated life? Saturn here could be attempting to teach you and to show you how to live this integrated life. Saturn in the 12th house is showing you where is it that you escape from the realities of what life needs from you, needs you to show up, needs you to stand up, needs you to be counted. Where is it that you're hiding in life? Why is it that you're hiding in life? So Saturn here will be indicating where and why you avoid things. But also it's going to be teaching you the lessons, teaching you the skills and the tools that take you away from escapism and bring you into direct contact with reality. And it's in the reality that you can actually gain freedom and free will. And the reason being because Saturn was teaching all of us, wherever he is in the chart, how to structure, how to be discerning, how to methodically work through things, how to be logical, thinking about the consequences of our actions. Saturn really is the structure for how we show up in the world. So there you have it. The next 3 years, it's about lessons. They could be painful lessons, or actually they could be lessons that you embrace because you're now living far more consciously, and so therefore you don't have the fear of being your own taskmaster. And so once you're able to deal with the everyday challenges that life presents to all of us, then you can grow in stature, then you grow in confidence, then you grow in authority, and then you will receive the applause that you are seeking because you validated yourself first, you understand the value you offer to the world, and then it's received by the public. So that's it, beautiful people. That's Saturn in Capricorn that will be running through Capricorn for the next 3 years. Put your comments, questions, answers in the comment box below. You know, I always love to connect with you. Feel free to share this gift with other people in your network so that they can start planning and putting themselves in a position where they are gaining self-mastery. So until the next episode, stay well, and I will see you as I think I've got maybe 2 or 3 other episodes before 2018. Oh, and before I go, given that we are coming to the end of the year, I have specials that are on offer in terms of if you want a full chart reading, if you want that 75 minutes, or if you want a 35-minute reading. And I'm doing this transit offer whereby I will map the key planetary transits in 2018, link them to your birth chart, do that as a written summary, send that off to you with a hand-drawn chart if any of that appeals to you, so that you can start stepping confidently, even more so in 2018. Drop me an email at bybreensamuels@googlemail.com. Until the next episode, stay well, beautiful people. Bye.